The talking, nagging, lucha watching, puro viewing, indie supporting, drinking, cursing, son of a gun of a podcast. Join former pro wrestler and promoter Dave Dynasty and co-host Ike Isaacs as they talk wrestling and interview those within the business, bringing positivity back to pro wrestling. This is the Dave Dynasty Show.
Greetings and welcome to the Dave Dynasty Show. I am your host, Dave Dynasty, and we're back. We're going to be on a more regular schedule from here on out. Thank you for sticking with us. We got lots of exciting stuff coming up on the Dave Dynasty Show. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. And we're also I'm going to talk a little bit about the recent rumblings of unionization in wrestling. And then I'm also going to talk about my ballot for the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame, the votes I cast. We're going to talk a little bit about that. This is going to be kind of a short episode, just a few things, some housekeeping duties to do on this episode before we jump in. Before we really get into things, let's talk about a couple things here with the show. You can follow us on Twitter, or follow me on Twitter, at The Dave Dynasty. I share all kinds of cool stuff on there, and plus you can have all the most current updates about the podcast. You can find us on Facebook. There is a page for the Dave Dynasty Show. Again, that's where all the news is. We also have a group, if you look it up, where it is open for any serious wrestling discussion. If it's anything that I see is out of line, any scam type stuff, any arguments, anything out of line, it'll be gone. I'll delete it and you will be gone. But join that group and discuss wrestling with us. There's also a group on Facebook for our Ring-a-Ding-Dong-Dandy Stampede Wrestling Podcast. Just look that up and share Stampede memories in there. And you can also follow that podcast on Twitter at Stampede Pod. And the Ring-a-Ding-Dong-Dandy podcast is our once-a-month look at Stampede Wrestling. I'm a huge Stampede Wrestling fan. I think it's a very, very innovative territory that has helped shape professional wrestling and did a lot of great, great things. One of the first territories that I started getting tapes from in the 80s. I was doing some tape training and got some Stampede stuff and was just blown away. And, of course, I had heard all about Stampede with the Hearts and the Bulldogs and everything else. Who were in WWE and where they came from and everything else, and later Owen coming in. So it's very cool in the 80s when I got some tapes, and I fell in love with Stampede. And, of course, I read all about them in the After mags and the Kaiser, a little bit in the Kaiser mags and things like that. So anyway, once a month we do the Ring-a-Ding-Dong-Dandy podcast. That is me and Moose Jaw Mahler. We had episode 1 out there with Bruce Hart. The quality on the interview the audio quality is not very good. We're getting that all sorted out and getting things in line. I got Moose Jaw Mahler on track with the what he needs to better record the interviews. But you will see the second episode of that podcast coming very, very soon. It'll just be right here in the Dave Dynasty Show feed. You don't need to subscribe to anything else. But if you just really want to focus in on that Stampede Wrestling Talk, again, join the group on Facebook and follow us, Stampede Pod on Twitter. But we got lots of fun things coming up in the future from the Dave Dynasty Show. We'll get back to our interviews. We're going to interview wrestlers and former wrestlers, and we're going to interview other people involved in the wrestling business behind the scenes and so on. We're going to do a lot of deep dives into different aspects of history, whether it be events, whether it be matches, whether it be personalities and wrestlers, or just specific incidents that help shape the history of wrestling. We're going to get all back into that again here soon. As we know, Christmas is coming up in just a little over a month. And with that, we will re-release the episode we did last year on the WWA Christmas shows. I am just purely going to take that, and I'm going to re-release that here in the feed. It is a great episode where I talk all about the WWA Christmas shows through history, through their time promoting shows, Bruce and Wilbur Snyder promoting shows. And then if you look, again, on Facebook and Twitter, I will share the newspaper clippings from those shows as a companion piece to that. So look for that in the coming weeks. Of course, like we said, we have the Ring-a-Ding-Dong-Dandy Show coming once a month. That's a very cool thing that we do. And in conjunction with all this, coming up again is Christmas. And you know what? If you got a wrestling fan out there, go to PROWRESTLINGTEES.com/TheDaveDynasty and buy them a shirt, right? You don't have to come in contact with the people. You don't have to go out and shop. Just order it there online. Have it shipped to your friend or family member who the shirt's for. And then you're done. And coming up, they have a Black Friday sale November 24th through 30th. You get 20% off everything in the Pro Wrestling Tees. There's no code or enter. It's just 20% off of everything. They're going to have lots of giveaways and different things. So support independent podcasts like the Dave Dynasty Show and go on there. We have 5 shirts. We have the Bruiser Buddy shirt. We have the Dave Dynasty logo shirt. We have the Midwest Express shirt. We have the Dr. Jerry Graham Jr. shirt. And we have the very brand new Ring-a-Ding-Dong Dandy shirt that's up there. Very cool. Kind of made to look like the Canadian flag. And, of course, it's set on that baby blue, color, very reminiscent of 80s wrestling. So go check that out. Again, it's ProWrestlingTees.com/The Dave Dynasty. Buy a shirt, help support the show, and get a little Christmas shopping done while you're at it. There's 2 other ways that you can support the show. You can do one-time donations on PayPal by going to paypal.me/The Dave Dynasty and just make a donation to the show. It can be for anything. Everything that is donated goes right back into the show. It goes in for equipment. It goes in for stuff that we get for promotional purposes, for review purposes. It goes, under normal circumstances, it goes when we went to events and things, it would go for that. So everything that you donate goes straight back invested into the show. You can also make an ongoing monthly contribution at patreon.com/The Dave Dynasty. Again, just a couple bucks in either of those, that helps us out tremendously. So you know what? It is the season of giving upon us. So help out the Dave Dynasty Show and keep us rolling and keep us putting this product out for free. Okay, so I think we're done with let's hit YouTube. Make sure you hit our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/The Dave Dynasty. I got lots of cool classic wrestling on there. Of course, the podcast episodes are on there and lots of other stuff. So go check that out. Subscribe there and watch away. If you got free time, you got with the everything going on in the world, with the shutdowns and time off from work for the holidays, check out the YouTube channel. Spend a little time perusing and watching there. Okay, so let's talk about a couple topics. First, let's talk about all the talk about unionization in professional wrestling. Of course, Zelina Vega was released by the WWE. The thought is it was because of the WWE policy about wrestlers no longer either shutting down other third-party platforms like Twitch, etc. The word is that Zelina was one of the most outspoken ones about not doing that. She was not going to shut down her Twitch channel, which was a very prominent channel for her, made her lots of money. And the word is she also doubled down and actually opened up an OnlyFans page just to reinforce the fact that she was not going to do this. So the word is that that's why WWE released. She, in a great move, before the announcement was made by WWE, she found out in the morning. So just a bit before the announcement was officially made, she tweeted out that she supports unionization in wrestling. And then, of course, the word was put out there that she had been released by WWE. People thought it was because of the tweet, but it was not. She had known before that it was coming, that was there. Some interesting things that happened from this is the president of SAG reached out via the tweet and replied to Zelina about the unionization, said she would be willing to talk to her. Apparently, they have had discussions, and she really thinks that, hey, you know what? In this day and age, Vince McMahon has shunned the sports side of it, that any aspects of this being a legitimate athletic sport. He wants sports entertainment. He wanted this for tax purposes and commissioner purposes and not having to pay these things. And now it might be coming to bite him a little bit because now people are saying, okay, well, if this is the way it is, then these people, they're actors. They're given scripts. They're told when to appear. They're shooting television, and what's the difference? So there's a lot of talk that some of the wrestlers might be eligible for SAG, and that would be a great thing for them. They would get them insurance. It would do all sorts of things. It would really be a game changer. But what's more so is there's potentially going to be lots of lawsuits and things that are going to stem from several of this, because the biggest problem in this whole picture is the fact of the label of the professional wrestler as an independent contractor. They are not truly independent contractors. An independent contractor, as long as they complete the work for you, can also do work for others. Has other rights and privileges like that. There's the exclusivity of the WWE eliminates that, right? They can't work anywhere else. They can do nothing else except work for WWE. But WWE owns their likeness, owns their name. that, of course they give them names, but the character that they're using this corporate machine to build, they own. And I understand that side of it and whatever else. But to label them as independent contractors so that you do not have to provide benefits, so that you get a totally different aspect on the taxes you have to pay and everything else, it's like you're really, the WWE is trying to win on both sides. And the wrestlers are truly the ones who are getting the shaft on it. So I think you might see a restructuring in how they're labeled and what they're labeled as, and it's going to make a big difference moving forward. And if they happen to become SAG eligible, that will be a huge thing too. Zelina Vega standing up for what she believes is right was a huge first step. She deserves a tremendous amount of praise for doing this. She is a very, very talented individual. She still has a bright future, and what she did is so wonderful. Now there just needs to be more. More people need to be able to stand up and be willing to change the system. There is compromise. There is win-win scenarios in this. It's going to have to be required that WWE and Vince McMahon do not try to drain every cent out of everything they touch. There has to be some give and take in aspects. So I really think it's going to be painful for some. It is going to be odd and peculiar, but you may see a reshaping and some growing pains in the professional wrestling business, especially now that there's another company out there with money backing them who can help, motivate some of this change. So we'll see where that goes. And hopefully it works out well for the boys. And hopefully, the talent wins from this and gets better benefits, gets better working conditions, makes some more money, and everything works out. WWE is always going to make their money. So it's ridiculous the way this works. So that's my views on it. I think it's a great thing. Hats off to Zelina Vega for doing that. And it's interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes and what develops from this. So let's take a break, and when I come back, we'll have a brief talk, you and I, about who I voted for in the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame and who I feel is one of the most overlooked talents not in there already. But let's take a break, and we'll be right back, so stick around. 2020 has been the year of things happening that are completely out of our control. But there is one thing you can control, and that is shaving your bush. That's right. Our sponsors at Manscaped are here to remind you to do so. Now, we've all experienced the quarantine, and when you don't go out in public a lot or you don't go to work as much, you tend to forget the personal grooming habits that you're used to. Well, the Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0 is a premium electric trimmer that's designed to give you a confidence boost through body image. It's very important to groom even during this time. Their ceramic blade and skin-safe technology are designed to reduce nicks or tugs on you fellas down low. The Lawnmower 3.0 is also waterproof and comes with an LED light, so you can manscape in the shower, in the dark, or in a dark shower, whatever floats your boat. They also just released their Shears 2.0 nail kit, which is the perfect add-on to their Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer. The Shears 2.0 is a luxury 4-piece nail kit featuring tempered stainless steel tools, and it includes tipped tweezers, rounded point scissors, fingernail clippers, and a medium grit nail file. The Shears 2.0 nail kit allows you to pluck your eyebrows and trim your nails in style. On their website, you'll also find the Crop Preserver, an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. This will help you tame that summer swamp ass with natural hydrators and antioxidants. You'll also find the Crop Reviver, a testy toner that's like having cologne that is designed for your balls. We won't judge you if we catch you sniffing yourself. Go to manscaped.com and check out some of these life-changing products. In fact, listeners of the Dave Dynasty Show will get 20% off plus free shipping with the code DYNASTY20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code DYNASTY20. It's time to grab 2020 by the horns by shaving that front trunk. If you are looking for the best books, DVDs, and posters on classic wrestling nostalgia, then you want to visit crowbarpress.com. There are literally dozens of titles there, including biographies of the likes of Bruiser Brody, Ole Anderson, Ivan Koloff, and of course, Dick the Bruiser, as we've spoke about here on the Dave Dynasty Show. You want to visit crowbarpress.com for all of your classic wrestling nostalgia needs. Again, that is crowbarpress.com. All right, and welcome back to the Dave Dynasty Show. I am Dave Dynasty, and let's talk about the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame. All right, there were 4 new members voted in by the voters in the Hall of Fame. We had Medico Assassino, who should have been in long ago, one of the biggest stars in Lucha Libre history. Carlo Flagard, who, again, was a good choice. And then Dan Koloff was put in as a historical figure. Ju Nakayama was put in from Japan. And then Kenny Omega. Now, I didn't vote for any of those individuals. My ballot was extremely different. I really only have issue with Kenny Omega. Everybody knows I'm not an Omega fan, and I'll this and that, whatever else. But my biggest complaint is the fact that I feel like he's still in the middle of his career. It just is very odd to me for him to go into the Hall of Fame now. So I don't agree with him being voted in. I do understand, he's a very, very popular person right now. His work rate for his time in Japan, which is the category he went in under, a lot of people were very high on that. But it's just not the kind of person that I would vote in, and I vote under the historian category, I assume. And Omega did not do as strongly in that category. So, it just makes sense. I don't know. I don't feel that Omega should have been in. But, it is what it is. So let's talk about who I voted in. Some of them I'll speak of just for a moment, but let's run the list down. In the wrestler category, I've got these all clumped together. I don't have them broke up into region or anything like that. But Wild Bill Curry, who I believe should have been in long ago, an innovator, an amazing character, and without guys like Wild Bill Curry, there would be no, some of the hardcore type stuff nowadays. And I'm not talking about the extreme deathmatch type stuff, but the fact that there was brass knuckles titles that created for the likes of Wild Bill Curry. So I feel like he should have already been in. Pampero Firpo, who was a big star in Hawaii, who was a big star in Detroit. I really think, again, that Firpo should have already been in. Archie Goldie, one of the biggest stars ever in Stampede Wrestling, one of the biggest stars ever in the Southeast, again, should be in the Hall of Fame. Sputnik Monroe, a huge draw in the Memphis area, and of course, the impact he had on integration and wrestling events and everything else. The importance of the whole picture. I feel like he should be a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. I feel like a broken record here. Johnny Rougeau, one of the biggest stars in Montreal, as a promoter, as a wrestler, and everything else. Feels like it's an oversight to me that he was not in one of the initial class that was just put in. And then, here's, there's a few. I also voted for Big Daddy, who, again, I think, you don't go on work rate, though. He was the biggest star in British wrestling for many, many years, and still is a prominent member of pop culture there. People still know who Big Daddy was. And then I got a couple here who are more modern wrestlers who there are arguments to be made kind of both ways. Junkyard Dog, who I feel was at such a high level of a draw in New Orleans and Mississippi, Louisiana, etc., for Mid-South, that I feel like he cannot be overlooked and should be in. Sergeant Slaughter, for me, for such a long time, defined professional wrestling. He was such a character that everybody knew. Of course, he had things he did, with G.I. Joe and different things that kind of put him more into the public spotlight. But people recognized Sergeant Slaughter, and he had some really great stuff. In early Slaughter, he was really a great bumper, a great worker. And I voted for Rick and Scott Steiner, who, again, I feel for a 5-6 year period were game-changing for tag team wrestling. And I feel like if you watch their stuff now, it stands out even more about how great it was for that time. And I really feel as a tag team that the Steiners belong in. And then my final wrestler vote is a guy that I probably feel the strongest about, and it's Cowboy Bob Ellis. Bob Ellis was a huge star everywhere he went, but he was a huge star before there was a nationwide wrestling scene. And he was a star in Chicago. He was a star in the Southwest. He was a star in the Midwest. One of the first prominent babyface cowboy type characters. He was such your prototypical babyface for so many years, as being credited as creating the Bulldog. I feel like he's a victim of the fact that in his prime, there's no video, right? There's no video of Bob Ellis in his prime. What the majority of the videos out there is later in his career, the 70s and 80s, when he was older, and obviously the work rate was down, and the fire was down, and he didn't move quite as quick. But I cannot stress enough the importance of Cowboy Bob Ellis and what he did, and he is, like, again, I think he's a name that's being lost to history because he's not getting the attention, and I more than think that he should have already been in many years ago, even more so than all these other wrestlers that I have said that about. So those are the people I voted for in the wrestler category. As far as non-wrestlers, I voted for 4. I voted for Jim Crockett Jr., who I fear should be in for helping take the Carolinas, to a much bigger stage. I know you can. There's arguments to be made for how he booked and did things at the time, not booked, but how he ran the company and everything else. But I really think he had a big impact on that area. Clearly, Jim Johnston. Again, I know a lot of people will think, but for so many years with WWE, the characters and the product and everything else is so definable by the music, right? You would hear that entrance music of a certain person, and you knew immediately who it was. That first note of some of these songs would elicit the crowd reaction, and that's Jim Johnston. He did that, right? He created the majority of that music for so many years. James Melby, who I feel is one of the pioneers in historical research for professional wrestling. Cauliflower Alley Club named their historian award after him, and I feel like without what he did in a time when the internet was not there to assist with the research, you couldn't just go onto newspapers.com and look things up. He put in the legwork. He did lots of things, results and everything else, and in the research, I feel he blazed the trail for so many of us now who are historians. And then Don Owen, again, who promoted the Northwest and the Portland area for longer than anybody but Memphis. So long promoting that, and was one of the last of the territories to hang around. And I feel like again, this is a guy that should have probably already been in. Now there's lots of other wrestlers who are on the ballot, and lots of other non-wrestlers who I feel are worthy. But I think you have to pick. You're only allowed 10 votes in the wrestler category, so you have to pick the ones that you feel the most strongly of, and you have to really kind of do the research on it and not just put in someone because it was a favorite of yours or because they had a very short little peak run or whatever else. You have to look at different things, whether the impact they had was just a huge impact if it was for a shorter amount of time, if it was a high impact over a longer period of time, if they changed the business in some way, etc. So I think you have to look at that. And so that's who I voted for. I look forward to next year. I think I'm going to spend the year and really campaigning and trying to drum up support for Cowboy Bob Ellis, and hopefully he gets a stronger showing next year. So, but that's it. That is all we have this week for the Dave Dynasty Show. Again, stick around. We got lots of great episodes coming up. We will get back with interviews with talent and everything in the coming weeks. Again, another episode of the Ring a Ding Dong Dandy Stampede Show will be coming up. So look forward to all that. But until then, I am Dave Dynasty. This is the Dave Dynasty Show. Make sure you go and look us up on social media. This episode is dropping right before Thanksgiving, so everybody have a good and safe Thanksgiving. Be smart with your gatherings. Let's keep the numbers down. Wear masks. I know it's hard. I know everybody wants to spend time with all their friends and family, but let's be smart. We've got, I don't want to get political, but things are happening out there. Just be smart, okay? And don't be part of the solution. Don't be part of the problem. But until the next episode, and wherever you go and whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.